And is your mic muted, Jake? Okay. Yeah. All right. What is up, everybody? It is I, Marquis. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical issues. This is another episode of the last 7 days. And because we're kind of behind a little bit, I'm just going to skip ahead and get straight to the good stuff. So this is what happened the first day of the last 7 days. The party wakes up early in the morning. It is night. They're having these weird dream visions. They see odd things. They see a person die in the middle of a bloody bog or it rains blood. They wake up. They're surrounded. 7 smoke devils stare at them and they tell them that they, the last 4 humans left on Crifoth, have only 7 days left to live. Disturbed by this, the group begins to walk. And they walk until daylight, into morning. And off on one of the ridges, what they see is simple, but yet complex, nonsensical. They see 4 figures atop horseback, each one a shade of a shade, a silhouette on bloody dunes. They try to reach these figures, but can never get closer to them. They get closer and closer, but all they hear is the screaming of an orc warband. And soon that orc warband appears, overtakes them, and Hana, their leader, the demon drinker herself, confronts them and tells them to run with them, humans, or else you will be obliterated and killed. For she has not seen humans in many years, and now you're in a world of orcs, an orc world. You guys all go back, and you meet the mother of Mother Base, of Mother Camp, an old, sickly witch tiefling who tells you all a prophecy that 1, soon this camp will be destroyed, and 2, the erudite's head would explode. That day, that same day, after wrestling with Hanad in the bloody, burning body of a pit fiend, a death storm approaches, a black storm filled with the souls of the dead, raging and howling and hating everything, and a powerful demonic presence as well. The storm hits, met by a wave of orcs, and the party helps the entire orc camp fight back against the death storm and the hordes of devils and demons coming out. But things go wrong. Weird magic puts them all back beside the mother herself, and appearing in their midst is the demon of song, a powerful archdevil. See a red ball. Give that red ball lips and make them shine. Make the whole head shine and the lips open. And as they open, another pair of lips open. And there's another mouth in there, and another mouth in that one, and that one, and that one. And then see the oracle. His heart explodes in his chest. He falls to the ground. He's brought back to life by his own preemptive magic. But the left side of his head, the left side of his face, completely slack, paralyzed. As many synapses in his brain just go out like that from the power of the demon of song. Afraid, terrified for his life, the erudite weaves powerful magic, and he teleports all 4 of them away to his private sanctum, 500 miles away from where the orc mother camp is. The demon of song confronts the mother, and the mother calls her sister, and the demon of song annihilates her and almost every other orc. And a loud, powerful psychic scream that causes heads to explode and lives to end like that. And now here we are, inside the private sanctum of the erudite. 400 feet underground, and a wooden block, a stone block, lavishly decorated. You see tapestries, you see paintings, you see desks, you see books, you see scrolls, you see codices. It's been 8 hours since you've arrived. Erudite, what have you been doing in those 8 hours?
Erudite has been fervently flipping through the pages of things he's discovered and written over the past many years here. He's studying fervently, trying to connect loose pieces of information and clues, and just puzzling together this prophecy. Any answers that may be hidden beyond the first glance. He puzzles over those 4 riders on the hill. He thinks about them and how curious they were. How they, in a sense of irony, blew his mind, blew his eyesight when he gazed upon them. But he realizes it's not irony that did that. It was just another cosmic truth. But he would look over the 3 and see how they are acclimating to this strange place that he calls home, that they probably would not have ever seen anything like this before.
So tell me, Murmur, in a strange place, per the erudite's own admission, which to you must be an absurdly strange place then, how have you been dealing with the situation, the fear, the experience you just went through, and now the rest you've just had?
So Murmur would be sitting by himself, probably in a corner of whatever chamber the erudite is in, with his horned helmet off. Just again, this misshapen slab of a face, this giant of a man, just sitting by himself with his obsidian longsword across his knees, his gray eyes darting from one curiosity to the next, seemingly interested but not saying much, as is his way. And he's just running a whetstone over the edge of this vaguely demonic blade that he holds, demonic in style. One thing that might catch the erudite's attention is that every now and again his eyes will dart over to Lilith if she's in the same chamber, and this slight twitch of his lips, almost like the beginning of a frown, but it never quite manifests, will wash across his face every now and again as he again just looks around, seemingly disturbed, but not especially driven to act at the moment.
And Lilith, you're a pretty perceptive individual. The erudite may or may not catch these. You definitely do. You catch these looks. And if I recall correctly, as you guys appeared here, you and your brother fought it out, actually, as you tried to basically beat him down, but he deflected all your punches with his magic. You were angry, you were enraged. But what mental state is Lilith in now?
After the rage had passed and after she had had some time, she would have moved into this stony silence. She would try and busy herself as much as she could, sharpening her blade, rearranging her pack again and again. But that silence after this 8 hours has turned into this twitchiness, just this unease of being in the same place for too long, for being this closed in. She's having flashbacks to the arena, to where they would hold her in the holding cell before she would go out into the battle. She's having that same twitchiness, that same excitement, but bordering on just this excited terror. Though she would not admit that to anyone. But she would be pacing. And every time Murmur would kind of make that look, she'd pretend not to notice in her peripheral, but then she would look at him through the corner of her eye and just kind of grind her teeth a bit. She would look to the erudite and just shake her head.
Perfect. And the Oracle, with half your face ruined, unless you choose to use powerful magic to fix it, how have you been dealing these last few hours since you caught the brunt of the demonic magic that came with a demon of song?
He would find a quiet place, probably in one of the corners of the main hall, and just put a few dots to make a constellation. it's the orchid, which represents life, and it would sit next to it and try to visualize the open night sky above, giving him comfort and slowly using his divine magic to regain a few of his vitality that he lost.
And as you tap into this wellspring of divinity inside of you, Oracle, something happens. Your hand begins to twitch, and then your heart begins skipping beats. And then that half of your brain, where the synapses are still kind of screwed up from the magic you suffered earlier, begins to fire all like that at once. And your head snaps back, and your eyes turn white. And you see this flashing of a scene. The camera turns from you to Lilith, and it zooms in on her. And as it does so, it's zooming in on her flashbacks of the fighting pits, of the holding cells. And we see a bloody corner here, and we see a skull broken here, and we see a man held up by chains on the wall like this bloody eagle, his lungs pulled out of his back. And then the camera stops flashing, and we're on a pair of black gates. They're carved out of obsidian, and engraved into the obsidian are these horrific images that even I dare not describe. And the doors swing open, long and loud, and a black mist comes rolling in between them. And then you hear the sound of boots on the ground. And these two figures enter in, two tieflings, one with violet skin and one with midnight colored skin. They wear regal outfits and sharp armor, and they have demonically stylized weapons, not unlike murmurs, at their side. And the camera zooms in on them, and then it turns along their heads, and then it's looking between the shoulders, and now you see the throne room. You see these massive pillars with these huge weapons stuck into them, breaking through the rock, and these chains hanging down, and these torn tapestries, and the heads of great beasts, skinless, fleshless, just bone burnt black, hanging from the ceiling by these same blackened chains. And you see the throne itself. You see the tall back is floating above a massive cushion. And on that massive cushion sits a figure that, if he was standing, must easily be 12 feet tall. And his skin is violet in color. He has a pair of massive bat-like wings from his back, and another pair of wings comes from his hips and wrap around his naked groin, along with two long tails that coil around his legs and then pull in more coils before him. And then another pair of wings coming from behind his ears, wrapped around delicately the 7 pairs of horns he has coming and bending from his crown. His face is blank, totally, his eyes closed, and naked tiefling women hang off of him, whispering things, the eyes plucked out, the noses removed, the horns broken off. The camera turns back to these two tieflings who have entered, and they both bow at the knee. The midnight-colored one says this: "The demon of song has found them." And the violet-colored one says this: "And then she lost them." And this great archdevil, looking down on them, makes no expression. No emotion crosses his face, but he does say one thing. He says to these two tieflings, "The demon of song does not understand that the most dangerous moment of the hunt is when you've caught your prey." Both of the tieflings nod their heads at this wisdom that he speaks. And then the midnight one takes out a long black knife, holds it to his throat, and shoves it in with all his force. He gurgles on his blood, and he falls to the ground dead, and blood pools out. And the other tiefling looks into the blood as it ripples and it turns to oil, and he says, "They are hidden. We cannot find them scrying. What do we do, my lord?" And he leans his head back, this great archdevil, and he stares at the great black vaulted ceiling above him, and he says, I know where they are, and soon they will be found. And as he says that, Yannis, your head comes back down, and you blink once, twice, and you're once again seeing the room around you. And tell me, Oracle, having seen this divination, this sight, what's your
I would turn and look to the others and say, they know where we are. They'll find us soon. And then I would look to Lilith and murmur and say, the gates of Malice have opened. And start collecting my candles and incense I've laid out back into my pack.
Of course they'll find us, and we're here sitting like cornered dogs. This room with no escape.
It would impress me if they found us so quickly.
At those words, erudites, all four of you hear on the stone walls, 400 feet underground around you, on the door beside closest to Murmur, not the door, sorry, on the wall closest to Murmur.
So Murmur will stop sharpening his blade. In fact, he stopped sharpening his blade the moment the oracle said the word Malice. And he's just sort of frozen there like this statue of sinew and gristle. And then when he hears the knock, his eyes dart in that direction. He puts away his whetstone and stands up to his full height of probably a little over 6 feet and looks over at the erudite and just turns to look at the direction of the knock and then back at the erudite, the question obvious.
The erudite listens further for these knocks. He's walked to the other side of the room almost in the blink of an eye, and he in his hand he's grabbed from a rack on the wall his signature steel longsword with some ornate jewels or gems carved into its hilt. And he just listens and he waits and bides his time. He is silent, but his eyes are busy.
Lilith, Yannis, what do you two do?
Lilith would immediately brandish her weapon and just get it ready, eyes darting around, preparing for anything to happen. But her eyes stay on the erudite to see any hint of unease.
I would slowly walk next to Lilith, and while looking towards the knock, I'd say to her, I saw another omen. Be mindful. And get ready.
And is there any unease on the erudite's face at all?
No, in fact, it's more one of curiosity or something intriguing.
Right.
But he's eyeing a different room in this sanctum of his, in case things do go awry.
I like it. Murmur, you look at the stone, and then the stone begins to turn white. Very, very pale shade, but very slight, very subtle. And then that whiteness turns translucent, and then the stone is gone, and you see the figure standing before you, erudite. What is your reaction as standing on the other side of this wall, in a very rectangularly, perfectly cut tunnel, is a 7-foot-tall ash elf, pale skin, completely gray, black hair falling amongst her shoulders, wearing little more than a robe, of course. And then, keeping the robe together at her waist, is the skull of a tiefling. Nothing in her hands, her eyes pure black, not moving, not saying a word, not even really breathing, if you look.
The erudite looks at not an enemy, but perhaps a peer. To do the things that she just did would be something that only someone who can channel and command great power could do. And he would step forward, his feet inches above the stone, as they always are, and just look upon her, not threateningly in pose, just an invitation for her to speak first.
Now that you're close, you can see another detail, erudite. You see that her ears are so long that they almost touch behind her head, a sign that an elf is extremely old indeed. And when you step forward, her head turns to move towards you, and it moves as an elf head does, of course, which means no other muscle in the body moves. It's as if like a floating skull has turned towards you, but you still see skin attached, but it's unnerving seeing the skin just not move as it should as she looks to you. And then the pitch black eyes, of course, look to Yannis, look to Lilith, and then back to Murmur, and then to you, erudite. Before she speaks, do any of you other guys say or do anything?
Lilith would immediately go beside her brother and just mutter under her breath, "I thought you said you'd be surprised if they found us. Here we are, brother."
Does
Now
that
let's
look like a
see.
devil to you?
Devils can take many forms. You
So
seem
can my
so
eye. So can my eyes
relaxed.
see many shapes.
You seem so relaxed. How? You are naive. And she looks towards the elf, axe in hand. State your business here and who you are and how you got in here before I drive this into your skull.
The elves, go ahead, erudite.
I was going to say, as she says that, Erida would say, or after she says that, what she means to say is, welcome.
The elf's mouth is a thin line that neither frowns nor smile nor so much as twitches. And in the classic Ashton elf way, when her mouth does open to speak, it's just barely, just enough for the whispers to slip out. And she says to you directly, Lilith, "We found this place 20 days ago. We were led here by the oil, and we were told that here we would find the last 4 humans to walk this world. It would seem the oil did not lie this time, and me and my tribe have waited very patiently. We cut deep, we found this hidden place, and we have come to watch you die and to warn you that this place is not safe."
And Lilith would turn to the erudite and looking between her other companions, Murmur and the Oracle. I knew this place was not safe. I told you all. We need to leave. And we need to make sure that no one can get back to tell of when we went and where we were. And she would look poignantly back at the Ash Elf.
It is far too late to play games of subtlety and stealth. It was too late when the first demon walked this world, and it is too late now.
Murmur will just very slowly raise his newly sharpened obsidian longsword so that the point is directly pointing at this ash elven woman. And he'll just say in this dusty voice, "Nothing is certain. If this is all you have come to do to deliver this warning, then turn around and leave."
The Ash Elf takes a long step forward, and your sword goes straight through her chest, rippling through the illusion. She looks at you continuously, and she says to you, as the illusion of the cut wall behind her turns once more into solid stone. She says, I have come more than to give you a warning. I have come to watch, as I said, me and my 5 brothers and sisters above ground. It is important that you go there now, with haste, for Malice is looking for you.
A smile creeps across the erudite's face. One of kind of genuine joy at like the epiphany that this was an illusion, something that he had suspected this whole time, as he is very certain about the integrity of his sanctum, that no one could easily walk in like that. And so he has a curiously not puzzled look to him, even though his mind is racing a mile a minute, as he observes his 3 companions, seeing every twitch of muscle, every bead of sweat, every gritting of their teeth at how they're puzzling over what to do.
I think after realizing that this ash elven woman was not there, Murmur would take a moment, lower his blade almost like an automaton, just this slow, gradual movement. And then wordlessly, he would go over to where his belongings were in the corner, gather up his pack, put his horned helm on his head, and sheath his sword before looking to the others and saying, I suppose our time for rest and respite has come to an end. We should go.
The erudite would like to head over to a small basin of water that he has in this sanctum, as he incants an appropriate ritual of scrying. He wants to glean some information, visually or otherwise, of this particular ash elven woman that had appeared.
As you look into the bowl of water, what you're looking at, from a bird's eye perspective, of course, is the great dwarven ruin that's built on top of your private sanctum, right? And you kind of move, like, I guess, like these scrying down, and you see in one of the fallen towers, sitting on a piece of stone, no, a piece of glass that is still horizontal inside the tower, is 5 different elves, 5 different ash elves, of course. They're gray and white skin and hair, and their robes pulled tightly around them. And the 5 of them are sitting in a semicircle that looks almost like a crescent moon, given the color and everything, and the shape of them sitting. And you see that they're all in a trance, sitting cross-legged, their hands on their knees. And you see the woman in particular in the middle of this crescent moon. And then as you kind of pull the scrying back, you see a 6th ash elf on the outside of this huge fortress, taking care of these massive, monstrous things they ride, looking between a mix of a bunny and a horse, essentially, basically feeding them as well as making their own food for them to eat.
I have gazed upon our ash elf visitors. They speak the truth. They are no illusion. They're above us. He kind of just points upwards, sitting in their elven trance, moving beyond their bodies as they can do. It is no agent of the demons, my friends. For now, our sanctum is safe.
But how are we so sure that they will not quicken our demise if it comes to that? I do not like to be down here, brother. Despite your wisdom, or more, your intelligence, you trust yourself too much. And no human is prone to perfection, you will make a mistake. And I will not have it be the cost of my life.
He gives you a nod, a silent one, as he begins to pack away in his what would amount to a bag. Start stuffing various scrolls, pieces of dusty debris that he's glued together with magic to form pages of lost information. They were once just dust in the air. He had pieced together each page, piece by piece, like an impossible puzzle. But he does not say any words to you at that. Just a little chuckle.
You're muted, Jason.
There we go. Hello. As you say that, not wanting your brother's intelligence, wisdom to cost you your life, Murmur actually speaks up from inside his helm, and you just hear this sort of vaguely metallic voice say, "And your thirst for courage and honor will not be the death of me, Lilith, or this group. We must temper our actions with wisdom, like your brother has." And he sort of nods his horned helmet in the direction of the erudite, but he still looks like he's ready to leave because of what this Ash Elven woman said.
And the oracle would pick up his bag over his shoulder and and he would say more to himself than to the rest of them, "Wisdom is overrated." And he would walk towards the erudite to follow in his steps, as he doesn't know the way out from here.
What, we're ready to leave? Is that what's going on? The erudite would say, kind of just looking with a coy smile. Have you overstayed your welcome here in my sanctum?
It is best for the prey to continue moving away from the predators. These ash elves may not mean us ill, but how can we be certain? We run.
If they wished us ill, you know, as always, that they would have offed us by now. It's the simple truth here. We've been here known about for 8 hours. We've stayed the night. And yet here we still stand. Do you not have trust in the sanctum?
I have trust in you, erudite. You saved us. I am grateful for this. But that does not mean we should throw caution to the winds. We are hunted. We have been hunted for how many years now? And he sort of rotates his sightless metallic gaze to the other two. I think we can stay nowhere very long. Not even this place, protected by your... And he sort of waves this hand, magics.
So what is your suggestion? Where would we go?
We run back into the wastes. Crifoth is large. There are many places where we can hide.
So
We
are
go
the
further
eyes.
west, away from the strongholds.
Away from Malice and the Ring of Teeth.
If you will join us above, I will show you why no matter how far west you go, no matter how far east you go, there is no escaping the fate that has been told you. But it is well known amongst all those who still walk this world that humans cannot, will not, and should not be reasoned with. So with this, should you choose not to come above, and the Ash Elf bows then, and she stands above, and when she stands up again, she says, It has been an honor seeing what has come of your people. And with that, her illusion just fades away, turning into black-gray mist, and then to green lights, and then to fireflies, and then to nothing.
Lilith would just like mutter under her breath, just snarky asshole, and just look back to the rest. I agree with Malice. We need to leave, but having those ash shells up above ground makes me very uneasy. True, they may not want harm to us, but what they said, they just want to watch us die. That is not. And she would just kind of trail off, just a bit annoyed.
You seem so willing to be alone with no companions, yet here you are, complaining that they will not be your companion. You're silly, Lilith.
Lilith would just kind of growl at you. That is the best way to describe it. Do not talk to me as if I were a child, brother. I have killed many more than you have. I have seen the life drain from eyes as I consumed them. I will not take your goading any longer.
As you wish.
So, where's the door?
That would defeat the purpose of the sanctum, would it not?
Guess so.
And create a way for us to take so that we can leave.
And create I shall. And he would wave his hands almost sarcastically and gesture to a room beyond where you can see scrawled on the stone floor in charcoal, in silver, in blood even, a massive circular diagram filled with many different shapes, pentagrams, triangles, squares, oblong shapes, lines that interconnect and are broken by various circles and dots and shapes. That is the way out. But once we go, I cannot guarantee that this place will be here when we come back. Don't leave anything behind.
And Murmur just nods quietly and heads towards the room with the symbols on the ground.
Yeah, Lilith would just... Every movement she makes is exaggerated. Just in this angry, like what a child does. She would just grab her things with her axe, and she would just shoot Erudite the most menacing look she could as she walks through the circle.
I would follow.
The erudite would be the last to step in the circle. He walks back to the library of things, of relics, of treasures. We can see all across the wall drawings, sigils, shapes, writings scrawled up on charcoal and hanging about, almost as if a madman lay residence here. You can see shelves and tables full of valuable pieces of knowledge, at least valuable to someone like the erudite. With a quick scan with his unblinking eyes that capture everything. He looks upon everything in this treasury room. And with a snap of a finger, it all lights up in flames. Every mote of dust, every scrap of parchment, every piece of anything flammable would just erupt. And then he walks back to the circle. His library now no longer a physical item. It is now within his mind. And he would begin the ritual to activate this circle. And then the four of them would appear up above ground, somewhere hidden in the
Are
waste.
you inside the ruins or somewhere far away?
Somewhere far away.
All right.
Above ground, yeah.
Perfect. The moment you guys appear, there's a bright light, and then that light begins to subside very quickly. But the first sensation you feel, or the first thing you experience, is not sight, it's feeling. It's wet all around you. There's something wet falling on top of you. And as you blink once, twice, and you can see again, you realize that where you're at in the middle of these wastes, it's raining. And you have these jagged rocks above you guys, right? It's kind of like that hides this circle, and the rain is coming through those rocks and just dripping onto you guys. You guys see way out into the distance. But as you look out through that opening of this makeshift shelter created by the area, that you see far off on a distant horizon, on top of a dune, 4 silhouetted spectral riders, all lined up neatly, the same you had seen the previous day, all looking at your direction. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up as if you know you're being watched. What do you guys do?
A curiosity, those four are. The 4 riders. They watch us like I watch everything.
Murmur just pauses for a minute, and then you hear very quietly from inside the helm, "Oh, shit."
Come on, Lilith. Lead the way. Gesturing to what's beyond this caverny rocky shelter.
And she would start to walk, and you can see that as she looks at the riders, there is this brief flicker across her face of worry, of fear. But it is only the slightest twitch, and then it is gone in an instant, and her face once again becomes hardened.
As you take your first step out, Lilith, into the world of Crifoth again, your foot sinks down into the ankle in blood and sand. You know that when it rains in Crifoth, the blood sand literally pulls the blood out of the sand, and you're staying in this weird, disgusting muck. But that's not what gives you pause. The light is weird, as in the light all around you is wrong. And when you look up to the sky, you see 2 things, Lilith, and the rest of you too, that should not be. First, you see the sun has been cut in half. Yes, the great orb itself of fire and light has been severed in twain, and the bottom half of it bleeds out and disperses like a drop of dye put into water across the sky, creating this amazingly strange and horrifically beautiful twilight over Crifoth. And something else too. In the sky, you see countless, hundreds, thousands, millions of shooting stars. You see these shooting stars are landing places in Crifoth. And the camera actually follows one of these shooting stars. It zooms in on it, and you see this massive ball of black flame hurtling through the heavens. And the camera turns around it, and we see underneath it all of Crifoth just going. God. You just see all of breakfast passing by underneath it. And then you see the dwarven ruins as you guys are just underneath. And this falling star collides directly into it. There's a horrific explosion. Rock turns to magma and sand turns to glass, and it buries deep, deep, deep into the earth. A heartbeat later, a second star falls in the same spot. It breaks into the sanctum, these black flames. No, the shadow is what it is, for there's real flames there too. And then the camera pulls away, and in the smoldering ruin of this dwarven fortress, the private sanctum, we see over the lip of the crater begin to pour out thousands of hunters, their black spectral versions, their bodies spreading across the sands. And the camera speeds back across Crifoth all the way to where you four are. And it goes back to your faces, your eyes, as you stare at the split sun and the falling stars. What do you guys do?
So Murmur actually moves to catch up with Lilith, though it doesn't sound like she got too far before all this madness became apparent. And Lilith, you just hear him kind of quietly say, almost to himself, "The Golden Hand would have loved to see this." And then a little louder to you specifically, he says, "Maybe we should not approach these riders. We don't know what this is. I have never seen anything like this before. Maybe we should find another way, take another path."
Lilith would nod. Yes, we have no idea what they want or what they are capable of doing. One day, though. And she just kind of stares at them.
Think about it this way, Lilith. It is better to be a dishonorable coward than to make a brave, honorable corpse. And Murmur starts to move sort of parallel to the riders, but just following Lilith's lead.
And kind of like Lilith just kind of says, and she says, "But the best is to be an honorable victor. And that is what I intend."
Well, we certainly do not lack for enemies, Lilith, but remember, and he holds up one gauntleted finger, this is not Malice. This is not the pit. This is not the Ring of Teeth. There is no respite here, no cool water or food after a victory. There is nothing but this. And he gestures towards the bloody muck of the sands.
And she kind of cups, like she just bends down and she kind of cups a bit of the blood that's pooling from her footstep. And she cups it and she would just kind of lick it, just kind of smearing it on her mouth all over herself. And she says, "Yes, what a glorious place this is." And she would keep walking away from the riders.
And as she says, what a glorious place this is, the erudite is looking to the horizon where these shards of the sky are falling, creating craters. And he's looking at those four riders and how are they reacting or not reacting to this earth-shattering event.
It's like looking at a painting, right? They don't move. It's that simple. The painting moves, of course, because you had the falling stars in the background. But the riders themselves is as if not even the wind touches them.
The erudite would just say, "We'll lead the way to the two gladiators."
Time passes, and you guys are just moving through the muck, just almost aimlessly, right? But just like not towards the riders, correct, Lila? All right, perfect. Everyone, please make me a constitution save for me, and then just verbally say what it is.
I got a 12.
25 for Murmur.
Oh, hey.
21.
There we go.
Natural one.
Nice. So, Lilith, you know how these bloody mucks are. All of you know this. It's like moving through quicksand the entire way, just getting slipped as you go through it, right? So, with that being said, Lilith, you take 3 points of exhaustion. You, Yannis, however, are suffering far worse. You're falling back through. You're almost slipping and falling many times in the muck. And then at one point, you just can't move anymore, Yannis. And you realize it's because your legs have sunk knee deep into the muck. And you feel yourself slipping more and more. What do you do?
Let me help here. As he spits some bloody sand.
Lilith would turn and just look at you. And she would look at the other two, look back at the oracle, and turn and keep walking.
And for reference, between the oracle and you three is about 60 feet of space.
So seeing that Lilith is not going to help the holy man, as you move away, Lilith, you just hear Murmur say, "I like you, Lilith. I like you." And then he turns and he starts kind of walking back slowly towards the holy man to try and help him out.
So for reference, the blood muck is difficult terrain, obviously. As you get about 30 feet across, make me a dexterity save, if you would, Murmur.
15. Let me know if I
Right.
fail because I have something I can use.
fail.
Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to use one of my 3 uses of Indomitable, which is a class
Dope.
feature. Allows me to reroll.
First time that's ever happened in a game.
Yeah, right. And this was even worse. So let me see. I have to use the new roll. So it's a 10.
10, bad. Erudite. No, actually, we'll do it from Yannis' perspective, from the Oracle's perspective. Oracle, you see him get about halfway closer towards you, and then you look up, and you see one of the falling stars land on him directly. The explosion is massive. Blood turns to steam, and sand turns to glass. The shockwave actually sends you flying back, Oracle, and you are right now actually drowning in blood as you're kind of lost underneath the sand. The other two of you hear this massive explosion behind you, and you both turn around. And what you see is this massive orb of shadow weaved in black flames. And the black flames pulse, and they turn orange, and they spread outwards, and they solidify, and it's these massive wings. And standing on top of you, Murmur, on top of your burning, white-hot, metallic body, is a pit fiend, a being made of pure shadow, a being that hunted and haunted in Malice exclusively. It is 20 feet tall, its wings made of fire, its body weaving shadow, and it holds out one hand, and sand rises from the ground and forms a massive claymore that it grabs. And it looks up into the sky, and another star falls directly in front of you, Lilith. Make a Constitution saving throw, both you and the erudite. Or strength saving throw, if that's better for you. For reference, Murmur, you have taken a total of 50 damage from a star falling on you.
I got a
19.
15 for a strength
Okay.
save.
Lilith, you go flying backwards from the shock of the explosion, and you're lying back in the mud. Erudite, you somehow manage to keep your feet as a second twinned pit fiend looms before you, and we are now in initiative order. The first pit fiend basically takes its great sword, lifts it into the air like this with both hands, the point aiming down, and stabs it underneath it directly into Murmur's prone body. Murmur, what is your AC again?
AC is 21.
21. That is going to hit. For the first attack, Murmur, you're going to take a total of, let me double check here to make sure. I'm not
Real
making
quick
these
before
numbers.
you double check,
Yep.
Murmur is going to expend a point of luck to get you to reroll that, please.
Perfect. All right. I actually rolled higher that time.
Damn it.
Thank you for your luck, my good friend. You're going to take a total of 20 plus 6 times 6. You're taking a total of 56 points of damage, half of that being fire, as the blade
Okay.
explodes on you. And then picks you up from the ground. Make an athletics or acrobatics check if you would. God damn, these stats for pit fiends are ridiculous, my guy.
Hang on one second. You said acrobatics or athletics?
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Oh, Jesus. All right. Crap. I'm going to do it. All right. So that's a 12. I'm assuming that fails, correct?
That fails, correct.
All right. So I'm going to burn a second use of Indomitable. This is bad. That's much better. That's a 29.
Perfect. Describe for me how it picks you up in its burning black grip. How do you cut your way out of its hand?
So recognizing this particular winged horror from the Ring of Teeth, the grandest and largest of the fighting pits in Malice, Murmur is so shocked by the familiarity of this creature that it stabs him. And then as it picks him up, he tries to wriggle out of the way, but he can't. And then in that moment, he looks at the oracle, and there's just this deep flash of rage from inside of him because he knows that he should not have gone back for this man. The weak die in Crifoth. It's just the way it is. And in his moment of self-loathing and hatred, he just wriggles his sword loose and just cuts into this thing's hand, not wounding it. It's a superficial wound, but causing it to drop him at least.
It drops you, and as it does so, it takes its flaming sword and it pulls its tip along the ground. As it does so, flames explode from the ground, and then flames rise up as it casts fireball on you as well. Make a dexterity saving throw for me.
All right. Well, I'm going to be using my last use of Indomitable for today because my dice hate me today. All right. Let's see. That's a natural 20 modified to a 24.
Perfect. So you only take half of this damage. So you take 18 points of fire damage as you basically bathed in these flames that explode all around you. And the camera shifts from you to the other pit fiend, this other black shadow wreathed in fire. It holds its hand out, and then it strikes forward, striking the standing targets of the erudite. Erudite, what is your PC? Hey, sorry, what is your AC?
I will be using my at-will casting of shield for this, so it'd be 18.
All right, 18. Okay, bet. So I'll say that one misses. That one hits. That's a natural 20, and that one hits. Nope, that one misses. Are there any different critical rules in Crifoth to refresh my memory, or no?
Critical hits. They auto they are critical hits, but instead of doubling damage or whatever, the damage goes straight to blood. That is how they
Straight to blood?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. And how many blood points do you have?
I have a total of 23 blood points, but I can arcane ward a bunch of those away.
Okay, perfect.
56.
Because you're taking 56 points of damage straight to your blood from the critical hit mace attack. And then to your grit, you're taking a total of 38 points of damage.
I'm seeing if I got any reactions to this. Otherwise, lights out. Yeah, so I'm gonna drop to 0 blood because of that.
All right. Does it kill you, or does it drop you to 0?
No, I am now dying, as is regular D&D 5e rules.
Perfect. There's an explosion of fire as its mace completely picks up your body and then smacks you back into the ground. You land in a crumpled and broken and bleeding heap beside Lilith, who is prone. And the pit fiend is not done yet. It strikes forward and attacks you, Lilith, who is prone. It makes a single attack against you, which apparently means I dropped my dice. So I have advantage because you're prone. Ooh. I'm sorry, Lilith. Okay. You are going to take a total of, holy moly cazoli, 32 points of, let's see here, blood piercing damage. And basically, you see these shot into you. I need to make a Constitution saving throw for me. Or actually, are you immune to poisons as a paladin, or no?
I am just immune to disease, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make that con save for me.
Sorry, did you say just 32 to my blood?
No, to your grit.
Okay.
You're not Connor, so I don't have to obliterate you in the first round.
I only got a 5.
Okay, cannot regain any hit points while poisoned this way. At the start of each of your turns, you're going to be taking 36 points of poison damage, and you can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of your turns. That being said, Oracle, you're drowning in blood, and then your head emerges from basically the hell you're in, and you see these two pit fiends obliterating your party. Oracle, what do you do?
As it's something very rare for the Oracle, I would say, shit, and pull my left sleeve, and there is the scars of the Orchid constellation on my forearm, and as I open my hand towards the rest of my companions, each of the dots light up along with the lines on the scars, the bright white light, and I say, help them. And as I whisper, help them, I'm casting mass heal on everyone.
Heal for?
That's 700 hit points to divide it to everyone.
Okay, so I'm just going to say everyone is back to full with that. As you cast a spell and your arms glow and this pulse comes out, the pit fiends both stop, right? And both of their heads, the head of the Black Shadow and the Pathos Shadow, both turn to you, Oracle. And they look to the sky and they jab their great swords into the air. But nothing happens quite yet, as it is now your turn, Erudite, as you blink your eyes and you come back to life. Now, I believe you have to roll a d10 as well, Erudite, since you just got knocked the fuck out.
So even with the healing, I'm still unconscious then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a nat 1 on that, so.
That one. Let me see what the injuries are real quick. Give me a second.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here. Okay.
Concussion, I believe it is.
Yep. Nope. It's injured eye. It's in that one.
Yep.
So you have disadvantage on wisdom, perception, and intelligence investigation checks everything on site. And well, you have lost an eye, is what we're gonna say. So you struggle back up and tell me, Erudite, what's it like to have lost an eye and have to just briefly, for just a moment, to have basically died?
So with this mighty strike, it's blasted through layers upon layers of protective wards that the erudite had mustered up over the many years of his travels. And it was finally the last singular ward, and the blade finally went through and it's jabbed him in the eye, just this tiny nick. But the concussive force of this swipe is what knocked him to the ground and caused him to roll and ragdoll and lose consciousness. But now he has a very, very injured eye. But the important part of this is that normally the erudite's eyes would glow a deep crimson red, not a sinister red, but more of just a piercing red. But this eye no longer glows that color.
It is your turn as well, Erudite, if you'd like to do your action and whatnot.
The erudite from this would pick his feet off the ground, or pick himself off the ground, and his feet would begin to hover feet above the ground once again. And he would like to look to one of these pit fiends that are battling his companions. And he's going to inscribe a sigil that means return. And one of the pit fiends, say the one that struck him brutally, needs to make a charisma saving throw against DC 19.
You make this spell happen, and you see a flash of white light, and then reality cracks, and it does not vanish, as 13 plus 7 is 20. So the pit fiend is not blown away by your spell. That face. The pit fiend says, "Fuck you, dog," and stands there still. Do you do anything else?
Well, that is my action for the turn.
All right.
But the you can see as he casts this banishment ritual, more ripples of force begin to weave their way and mesh and reshape on his protective force fields. And I'm done.
Got it. I dig it. That means it is your turn, Murmur. Murmur, you have literally just been through hell. You've been blasted to shit, cut down, a star has fallen on you, and then magic flows through your body, and you see the burns falling from your flesh like black ink. You're back at full. So tell me, Murmur, what do you do?
I am going to roll some attacks against the pit fiend that is closest to me. So give me 1 second real quick.
All right. So this is the Black Shadow.
Okay. And is that the one that I recognized from Malice?
Both of these you would recognize from Malice.
Got it. Okay. All right. So the first one is a 27 to hit.
Hits.
24 to hit.
Hits.
A critical.
Definitely hits.
And a 23 to hit.
Perfect. They all hit.
All right, so let me roll this obscene amount of damage. Remind me again how we're doing crits?
So the crits are going to go straight to its blood. You don't know how much blood it has, but
Right.
I will tell you this is very important.
Okay. But so are we doubling the dice or just roll?
No, just normal damage, but it just skips the grit.
Gotcha. All right. So the first one is going to be 11 points of damage. Let's see. Yeah, 11 points of slashing.
Mm-hmm.
Second one is 13 points of slashing. The crit is lousy. That's 7 points of slashing.
Mm-hmm.
And then 13 points of slashing. So Murmur just runs at Black Shadow and just starts carving into this creature with this obsidian longsword. How is it looking right now?
You would expect carving to actually have blood coming out, flesh coming through, bones being broken. But when you cut into the Black Shadow, you're cutting into nothing. You're cutting into a bonfire. You're slashing at the sun and the night sky right now. And as you pull your blade away, you know that the flames, even though they're just a bit dimmer, are not dim enough. And you're not even sure how much effect your blade truly had. One of those days.
Yeah. All right. So then, yeah, Murmur will just sort of look at his companions and just call out loudly for him, which is probably normal speaking voice for anybody else. We should leave now. And he's, I'm assuming he's within 5 feet, so he's not going to disengage or anything just yet, but he will start to maneuver around like he's going to flee as soon as he has the opening.
All right. So Lilith, you start your turn, taking another 36 points of poison damage. The poison courses through your veins. It doesn't burn. It doesn't freeze. It doesn't even drain you. You just feel yourself feeling hollow, and you feel memories disappearing from your mind. The flashes of times in the pits, of people you've killed and eaten, of when you even met your brother, they all kind of disappear one by one like this. It's now your turn, Lilith. What do you do?
I think that Lilith is going to spend the 5 hit points and kind of like beating her hand against her chest to try and shake this poisoned state.
I like it. So you smack your chest, you feel a shock go through your system, and then you throw up this black ichor that the moment it touches air, just turns to smoke around your face. I'll say that's your bonus action.
Yeah, that's a bonus, yeah. And then she is going to... I guess she's prone, right? So she needs to take her action to stand up.
No, it would be just half your movement to stand up.
Okay. So she would stand up and she would kind of face these things, these pit fiends from Malice, and she wouldn't even heed Murmur's rules or Murmur's call, and she would just kind of let out this war cry at them both, and they need to make a wisdom saving throw.
I hope this is what I think it is. All right, so one fails. That's the black shadow that fails. And what's the DC on this?
19.
19. You said wisdom, correct?
Wisdom, yeah.
Yeah, okay. One fails, the other does not. So the Pathos shadow before you does not fails, and the black shadow by Murmur does not.
So the one that fails, he is frightened, and his speed is reduced to 0. And if he starts his turn there within 30 feet of me, then it takes 10 points of psychic damage.
I dig it. So you let out this howl, and you see the mace in the Pathos Shadow's hand break and turn to dust from the force of your scream. And the flames die down, and it curls before you, almost bowing to its knees as its flaming wings touch the ground, and the shadow is now just basically on eye level with you as it stares at you. Is that all you do for your turn?
Yeah, I would just, Lilith would just not be breaking eye contact. She would be staring down this fiend.
Perfect. We go back to the top of initiative order with the black shadow. The black shadow turns its wrist, and you see that its longsword seems to turn something in the heavens above as all the wheeling shooting stars begin to spiral in a circle in the heavens. And then it looks down at you, Murmur, and it turns the longsword back into reverse grip, and it does a motion like this where it turns its wrist again. And I need everyone here to make a wisdom saving throw. And DC 21, tell me if you pass or if you fail.
I fail.
You fail.
I'll use effort for this.
All right.
Yeah, I'm using effort, and I pass with a 21.
All right.
I pass
So-
as well.
Oh, you passed? All right. So just Lilith. Lilith, that same fear that you just put into the Pathos shadow is now filling your body. And you feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you turn and you look at the black shadow, and it looks at you, and you have the fear of God inside of you, too deep to get out, too deep to remove. And then, are you immune to fear?
I am.
I know, yeah. That's what I
And so
figured.
is everyone. All my allies are immune to
And
it.
then I imagine you kind of growl back at it, and that fear is gone instantaneously, right? And the black shadow knows this, so it does the next best thing. If it can't put fear into you, it will just break you as it needs to do. So it points its blade directly at you and the erudite. I need you both to make dexterity saving throws for me. Looking for, again, a DC 21.
That is a fail.
That is a fail for you.
And is this a
And this is a spell. Yep,
I'm
it's casting
gonna-
a spell.
I'm gonna flick my wrist and counterspell this.
All right.
Possible.
So as you kind of see, yeah, it basically is casting a wall of fire on you. So what's the check for that?
If it's a, is it a
Wisdom
fourth
check
or
for that? Remind me.
yeah? Is it 4th or higher of a spell?
Yeah, it's a 5th level
Okay.
spell.
Cool. I'm
Yep.
gonna effort this
All right.
this counterspell here. So it's a spellcasting ability. Okay, cool. So I get a total of 17. Has to beat 10 plus a spell level.
10 plus spell level. All right.
Yeah.
So you beat it.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. You basically flick your wrist, and you see these flames come spiraling out towards you, and then the flames are just blown away, and they just turn all the blood around you into mist that then begins to rain back on top of you, erudite. And now it is the Pathos Shadow's turn. Does it make its wisdom saving throw at the beginning or end of its turn, Lilith? To break the fear.
End.
End. Okay.
Yeah.
So since it's still 5 feet in front of you, it's going to attack you with disadvantage because it's afraid of you. So it basically explodes into a spiral of shadow and flame that falls on you like a waterfall. And what is your AC?
19.
19, so that's a miss. That's a miss. Oh, that's a hit. That's a big one. Yeah. And that's a hit. So you have 2 hits. So these flames and shadow come on top of you. And imagine you're fending off like these invisible strokes of claws and biting and tails and everything. You can't see anything, Lilith, other than the fire and the blackness. It's like you're fighting outer space itself right now. You're going to take a total of, 56 points of damage, half of which is fire, and then another 38 points of damage on top of that. And it is now your turn.
Okay, as I see them fighting and these pit fiends that I haven't seen very often up close, I would stand up, flick my robes, and as some bloody sand falls away, I would turn the same left arm that is scarred with the orchid and turn it around, and there's another constellation, and it's the crane. And I would, as it lights up, I would say, "Fuck off," and I will cast Banism to both of them.
Both of them? All right. What's the DC I need to make?
DC 19 Charisma save.
All right, it's a pass on the Black Shadow, and a pass on the Pathos Shadow. As you throw this light at them, and they basically resist the light, and it comes waving back at you, and you're blinded for just a moment. Do you do anything else with your turn?
I would just grit my teeth and just wait right there.
All right. Perfect. That means we moved on to you, Erudite. Erudite, you feel the heat of one pit fiend, the Pathos Shadow beside you, and you just deflected the spell of the Black Shadow some 30 feet away.
He casts his, he swings his longsword in a wide arc, and as it does so, it seems to be gathering electrical energy. And then with his other hand, drawing a simple rune, he uses that rune and just focuses his blade and conjures forth from it a great gout of lightning that strikes both of these pit fiends. So they both need to make a dexterity save at DC 19.
DC 19, perfect. Whew, all these saves tonight, fellas. Let me tell you. That's just barely a pass, and that's a fail on one of them.
The pass will take 20 lightning, and the fail will take 40 lightning.
So we'll say the fail is the Pathos, and that will take 40. And then we'll say the Black Shadow will take 20. All right, perfect. Your lightning arcs out from your fingertips. And go ahead.
And I was wanting to fly, continue to levitate backwards out of the thing's reach. I will accept this attack of opportunity to get the heck out of there.
All right. I'm going to say that since it's so focused on the lift, it won't make one on you for right now. So you basically, you cast out both of your hands, and the lightning falls from your fingertips like in a mushroom cloud-like shape, and it strikes them both as simultaneously you move backwards. Murmur, it is now your turn. You're still facing this one pit fiend, the Black Shadow who towers above you. What do you?
So question, does a 16, an 18, or a 19 hit? Do any of those hit?
The 19 will hit.
Beautiful. That's what I thought. Okay. So, yeah, seeing that nobody is making any moves to retreat from these two horrific creatures, Murmur kind of glances over his shoulder, seeing the sands and knowing that he could try and get away. But he just sighs inside of his helmet, this tinny sound, and just starts hacking at this thing again. I pre-rolled the hits, so I'm pretty sure all these will hit. I got 21, 23, 21, 19, and then he action surges. 2 of those miss, but then a 25 and a 27.
Dope. So he's going to total up all the damage for me.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. 16,
20. Imagine how this looks like is that basically you and the Black Shadow are just trading sword blows back and forth. And even though it looms above you, you stand your ground and are actually forcing it backwards.
Awesome. Yes. And that is a total of 65 points of slashing damage as Murmur just goes almost berserk on this thing. Again, partially fueled by his desire to live and also fueled by this strange creeping need to try and save these people that he's been traveling with.
I love it. You can tell you're making actual visible process now. The fires are jumping out around you. Your blades are kind of starting to cut through the actual obsidian that it's using to fight against you with. You see shadows being peeled off of this thing and just dispersing in there around you. You smell brimstone. You smell sulfur. You feel your skin actually burning the closer you get to this thing. But somewhere deep down inside of you, some divine instinct, or maybe just pure human instinct, is telling you that you're beating this thing down. Lilith, you can hear the sounds of Murmur, your fellow gladiator, fighting in the background. They empower you. They make you stronger. What do you do?
I can imagine Lilith is just surrounded by this fiend in this smoke, in this tornado, in this blackness, and she is just being just bitten and slashed at, and no matter what she does, she's trying to swing at it, but she can't get her footing, and she would drop to a knee, and just in her frustration, she would begin to scream. And they need to make an intelligence saving throw.
Got you. Intelligence. This is what I think it was. Perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll check something out. What's the DC?
19.
19. That's one fail. And that's 2 fails. So what's the damage on that?
47.
47.
Yeah.
All right. Minus 46. Okay. What does it look like as one of these pit fiends? The black shadow that Murmur is fighting, his head explodes.
I can imagine that she just screams, and for an instant, there is a hole that is just cut through the darkness. And she gets this vision of Murmur and this fiend fighting. And she just sees this, and she just screams louder and harder till she thinks her own head is going to explode because of the screams. And that feeling, she can almost feel it transferring from her mouth to the head of the demon. And it immediately, its head just explodes. And I would imagine that at first there is this this gross viscous material coming out, but before it hits the ground, it just kind of sizzles up and turns into like these smoking piles.
Perfect. You look around, Murmur, and suddenly you're inside the ribcage of a mass being. The flesh turns into this weird smoke that kind of spirals and turns around you, right? You're in this weird, almost tendril-filled thing. And you look between a pair of ribs, and you see off in the distance on the horizon, one of the 4 riders has drawn something, and your keen eye sees that it's hoisting a sword above its head. With that being said, the black shadow is dead, and now the path of shadow is left. And the path of shadow I never made its fucking saving throw, did I? What was the DC? Okay, that's the natural one, JK. The path of shadow, seeing that its ally has been broken, rises back up to its full height, but still does not move because it cannot, because it is frozen in fear. It is looking at you, Lilith. And then its eyes quickly look to the rest. And then it looks to the heavens. It puts its hands together. It goes to its knees, and it begins to pray. And then the sun, the upper half of it, that was just like perfectly a semicircle of radiant light, begins to bleed out and disperse like its lower half did. And every single one of you, all 4 of you, begin to shake as if every single atom in your body is all vibrating at once. The hairs on the back of your neck go up. The stars stop shooting and have once again frozen in the sky, and then it begins shooting again and continue to crash into the world of Crifoth and distant lands. And then you look up, Oracle, as it's your turn. And you see that opening up in the heavens above you is a massive eye. One massive solitary eye. The white is red, the iris is small, and the pupil is a long, thin gash in the night. It is now your turn, Oracle. You see that one pit fiend is down, and the Pathos Shadow is praying, oddly enough. What do you do?
I would reluctantly turn my eyes from the massive eye back to the other pit fiend, almost like annoyed that I can't stare at this eye for longer, and just point at him as a bright white light erupts from the sky and comes barreling down on him as I cast Sacred Flame on him.
I'm not going to make him say, I'm going to say you hit automatically, so roll your damage. And I'll actually, no, I'll just say it does the maximum amount of damage. So what's the max amount?
That's, let me see, that's 32. 32 damage. Divine.
All right. So for just a moment, its red flames turn white, and its black form seems to shrink ever so slightly. Do you do anything else, Oracle, or is that end your turn?
And go back to looking at the sky and seeing what the eye does.
You see this massive eye above you as well, Erudite, and you see that the pit fiend has stopped moving, and the path of shadow is just now praying to something. What do you do?
The erudite, he pauses for just a moment. He's observing, he's watching, he's wondering, he's thinking, he's analyzing what this pit fiend is doing. What power is it drawing from and such. Kind of like making some kind of analysis here.
I'll let you make an Arcana or Religion check if you would like.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna say DC 20 for this.
Yeah, he passes that with a plum here with a 26.
All right.
Arcana.
You know that sometimes demons pray, but they don't pray to gods. They pray to one single god. But you know that that one single god, the World Eater, become the World Conqueror, has been honestly quiet for a long time now. And that now the demons pray to something else entirely, or to a group of something else entirely. And you know that when they pray, their prayers are always answered, unlike those of humans. That's all you know from this. You too would know this as well, Oracle. I'm just going to give that to you.
And so, hoping to catch this pit fiend in mid-prayer, he's going to once again attempt to have it return, just disappear. Charisma save from this chap.
All right, so that's charisma.
Yeah, charisma DC 19.
Physical one, I have it. DC 19. You there?
Yeah, what's up?
What does the banishment look like?
Yeah, so I return is all the erudite is meaning to do, and so does this pit fiend return. It is not of this world. It is an intruder, and so do all of the beings, all the spirits of this crumbling vestige of a world. They would all chant in unison as they agree with the erudite, and in this rallying of spirits through this sigil of arcane merit, they would banish this being, plucking it from this world and depositing it in another, the one where it came from, an ether of void, and it no longer stands there.
For right now, we temporarily exit out of initiative order. You all have a moment to catch your breath for just a second. What do you guys do, having just survived this encounter? What are your first thoughts, your first responses?
The erudite would float gently back to the ground And where you would expect someone to start panting or breathing heavily after an exhausting thing, he dusts off his robes, his cloak from the blood sand, just kind of wiping it off and looking to the three as if nothing had happened. He looks too calm, too serene here. He would offer his hand to his nearest ally to help them up onto their feet.
Murmur, who was standing for a moment in the rib cage of this pit fiend, the black shadow before Lilith dissipated it, he stands there with his blade still out and his shield still on his left arm, and wordlessly, Oracle, you see the horned helmet turn towards you, and there's this very subtle shake, and then it lifts up to look at this giant celestial eye, and very quietly to whoever's nearby, probably either Lilith or the erudite, you just hear the voice say, "The riders, when we killed one of the pit fiends, the first one, they raised their blades. One of them did at least." And he actually does the same. He sort of turns the obsidian blade to the side and raises it slowly over his head, almost mirroring one of the riders on the dune in the distance.
Yes, I saw. Seems to me like you two are in yet another game. It seems like these wastes around you are just a grand ring of teeth.
This could be. I hope for your sake and for his, and again, the helmet turns towards the Oracle, that this is not the case.
I would just flick the last of the bloody sand from my clothes and approach the others still looking at the sky and just say, seems a lot of wanderers converge as the age of man comes to an end.
Lilith is down on one knee, and opposite to her brother, she is breathing very hard with these short but labored breaths. And she manages to stand up, but she winces. And she just begins, and you can see, like everyone can see all around her, all on her body, are these bleeding cuts, bites, just these wounds. And she would start just beating at her chest so hard that you can hear just this thumping noise. And slowly you see the cuts and these things that were once bleeding quite profusely stop, and they almost seem to knit back together. But she is jerking as if this is very painful to have this done. But then at last, when she finishes thumping her chest, she just kind of stands up straight, just kind of cracks her back and her body and just kind of twists it, and she steps towards the group, but her gaze is distracted by the sun, or the celestial eye.
Does anyone else do anything? Do you guys say anything? Will you attempt to teleport yet again, erudite? Or will you guys keep moving? Or what will happen next?
Lead on. The erudite would gesture to his three companions. But he would always be continuously, almost like watching the eye as it watches them, trying to be its equal, in a sense. A watcher for a watcher.
The eye takes offense to this, but before I describe how it takes offense, Murmur, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask, seeing Murmur raise his own blade over his head, kind of mirroring the riders, did any of them react?
They did not.
Okay, then yeah, he would sheath his blade after a few minutes and follow the erudite.
All right. The eye in the sky begins to cry. There's a rhyme for you. The rain around you guys pulls away. That doesn't mean it stopped. It's still raining, but it's as if it's closing, as if it's focusing in on a single area. And you see the rain kind of form this pillar, getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just one thin pillar in between all four of you. The eye closes and it continues to rain in that pillar. And then something happens. Starting from the ground up, the raindrops begin to form a person, a body, a being. And the shaking in your body gets stronger and stronger. And it feels exactly as it did when you saw the demon of song. And you see this being forming from the ground up, 10 feet tall. His skin is the color of fuchsia mixed with midnight, mixed with indigo. He has 6 pairs of wings, one that wrap around the nudity of his lower half, 2 that hang off his body, and 2 more that hang off of his ears. He has 7 pairs of curled horns. His spine is lined and even more spines, and he has 2 tails that stretch down and wrap around his legs. Now, you know this thing. You know him well, Lilith, and you know him well too, Murmur. Once he went by the name of Archfiend J. Mulan, but he no longer goes by that name. And the erudite, you know this. You've heard the rumors and the whispers of things in the cosmos, and you've heard tales of deicide, and you know that the Archfiend J. Mulan no longer has that name, but instead calls himself one single word: Malice. And as the Archfiend Malice, no longer a place, but a being, manifests before you, we take a cut to you, Lilith. Describe for me the very first time you ever laid eyes on this monstrosity.
This would have been after Lilith had acquired some sort of notoriety in the pits. She had won many, many tournaments, and she had survived. She was verging on the longest surviving gladiator at this point. And she was brought before Jameron so that he could look upon her and see if she would be worthy of being a legionary tiefling captain, if they should go for the change with her. And if she was worthy of drinking his blood.
And Jameron, in this instance, not Malice, but again, just that old name he used to have, had but a single pair of wings on his back, a single tail. And he looks at you and he leans forward and he smiles. And he says to you, both of his red eyes flaming, "Well then, this is a feat, a gift, yes, a gift I've never offered before." And he raises his hand and he cuts it with one nail and he bleeds this black ichor and he says, "Sup." And what do you say to him?
She would spit on the ground. This is the height of her, well, still going on ego, but she would spit on the ground. She would say, "I am strong in my own right. I do not need any of your filth to make me stronger. Only I can do that."
And of course, you remember well the punishment you suffered for this, right? He raised one finger, he tapped it on the air in front of you, and he hurled you through hell itself, though hell, of course, is Crifoth. And you saw all of the things he has ruined, all of the things he's killed, all the things he's destroyed before he brought you back and temporarily you were a shell of a shell, a broken piece of ash that was thrown back into the pits. And then we cut from you into Murmur. And Murmur, when was the first time that you had the distinct displeasure of meeting Jay Mulan?
Murmur was originally part of a small group of nomads living in the Scar when Jay Moran's hunters found the Enclave. They called themselves the Anointed because they believed that they were the ones destined to save Crifoth from the scourge of these archfiends. They did not. The entire Enclave was butchered except for the boy who would become Murmur and one other boy. And it was when they were first brought to Malice to stand before Jay Moran, this prize taken by Jay Moran's hunters. Murmur, who at the time was very young, probably 14 or 15, with this older boy who would eventually become known as the Golden Hand when he lost his right hand in the Ring of Teeth. And they were just shivering and trembling as they stared at this horrifying creature, wondering what their fate would be.
Perfect. And we step back into the present. Malice is standing there in the middle of the four of you, not facing any of you. And then slowly his head begins to turn, and you see the face of the Archdemon once known as Jay Mulan. You see that it no longer had 2 pairs of eyes, but it had 8 pairs of eyes, going from its chin all the way up to the normal location, but that every single pair of eyes has been stitched shut by golden thread, and that a 9th eye sits in the middle of its forehead, open, bleeding, black. It looks at you, erudite, and make me a wisdom saving throw. DC is 26.
I got a 28 on this one.
Perfect. You begin to cry tears of blood, and you step back. Your grit is reduced to 0, but no other effects happen. And he smiles, Malice, and he says, "Indeed." And then one of his tails uncurls, and it grabs your sister Lilith by the throat, and a flash of black, both of them disappear. You look up, erudite, bleeding those bloody tears. Your sister is gone, and the Archfiend is gone. Stars continue to rain from the sky, and the sun, bleeding out into the heavens, cut in two and destroyed, begins to set slowly as the second day of Crifoth comes to an end. So, thank you everyone for watching tonight. That was this was the second session of the 7-session mini campaign of the last 7 days of Crifoth. It was very weird, very short. The next one will be quite a bit longer. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning, but it was a good time. Again, we have Connor and Megan, the 2 writers of the supplement, in which world this game takes place. And then we have Yannis and Jason playing the Oracle and Murmur, themselves. Tune in again next week, where you can watch the 3rd session of this mini campaign, see what the fuck just happened with Lilith, and hopefully find out some more answers to what the hell is going on. So that being said, I'm Marquise. It was nice running this game. Again, thank you for watching. It'll be on my channel sometime at the end of the week. This is Josh in the background being stupid. And Jake, go ahead and take us out.